Guys, welcome back to another episode of Atlas Survival Shelters. You know, people are always asking me, like, how long do you need to stay in your bunker in case there's a nuclear bomb? There's a lot of myths out there, and if you ask 5 different people, you get 5 different answers. But we're going to go talk to a guy that's been selling radiation equipment for 20 years. I suggest you watch this entire video. I know it's going to be about 20 minutes long, but trust me, it's good, and you're going to enjoy it. Well, we are in Texas now, and we are going to stop by a guy that does radiation detection equipment, and this is a real prepper. We're going to go in and visit this guy. His name's Shane Connor, and his company's called KI for You, and he's a really cool, smart guy. This is his office.
Go ahead.
Hey, Shane.
Hey.
This is the man that does the radiation equipment. He's going to tell you guys the truth about the radiation levels compared to the Hollywood myths. Give the people that are watching this video some true statistics, really the danger they face from fallout.
The Nuclear War Survival Skills book is really the Bible, and you can buy a hard copy. I'd suggest it. However, you can get the PDF free online, but if you need it when the lights go out, you've got to be able to access whatever you put it on. So a hard copy would be good to have. One of the things this would show you in here is that fallout is dangerous because it's emitting radiation, which also means it's getting weaker very quickly. In the first 7 hours after the fallout was originally created, it's already lost, after 7 hours, it's lost 90% of its lethal intensity. And another 7-fold increase in time, roughly 7 times 7, about 2 days, 48 hours or so, it will have lost 99% of its lethal intensity. What that means is if you can hunker down in a bunker or other protective last-minute anything to remove yourself from the fallout, both distance-wise and having shielding, heavy stuff between you and the fallout outside, even if it's cramped and uncomfortable. In 48 hours, you can be a survivor where you can leave and safely join the evacuation, or possibly not have to evacuate
So
at all.
if you were even to crawl inside a septic tank with enough dirt on top of you, which I was doing a video on earlier, that's better than nothing because you got dirt between you and the surface. So the radiation is emitting gamma, alpha, and beta while it's sitting up there, but you're saying basically 7 hours plus 49 hours, 56 hours, how much of it's gone? 99%?
48 hours, 2 days, 99% of it's gone. Okay. Now, I wouldn't have the kids playing in the dirt after 2 days. I would go ahead and give it another 2 weeks for it to drop off again. But in 48 hours, most people are going to be able to leave their cramped, uncomfortable, last-minute shelter, and we explain all of that in the.
But this is based on an air burst, right? Lifting up the dirt off the surface.
in either case.
So if it's a ground burst, what's the difference between the ground burst and the air burst?
Well, airburst is preferred for military because it's going to go ahead and create a larger blast zone area, okay? And the ground bursts are primarily where they're targeting something that's under the ground, like a missile silo, something of that nature.
Okay.
If you want to cause the most damage, you're going to have the weapon going off like Hiroshima and Nagasaki at 2,000 to 3,000 feet over the surface. The fireball covers a wider area than when it's lifted up. We are the only private radiation calibration lab in the country that specializes in recalibrating and recertifying all of the old civil defense equipment, which we do for state agencies and local agencies. They'll send it to us. You can buy a meter on eBay, you can send it to us, we'll calibrate it, or you can contact us. We already have calibrated units here ready to ship today.
What does it cost to get one calibrated?
$90,
Yeah.
And that includes shipping back to you. Current turnaround time is about 10 days.
Really?
And we do that
So
in the lab.
there's all these different sizes and types. What are they?
Two basic instruments. You've got your low-range Geiger counter type instrument, and then you've got your high-range instrument, CDV 715, 700. 700 is the low.
What's the difference between one and the other?
Well, this would be for low range radiation. This will detect, for instance, like this unit right here. This is a barrier unit that used to be used in civil defense in an auditorium to train the public about fallout shelters. It shows them how water or stones or sand would go ahead and absorb the radiation so that it was safe to be underground if we had fallout atop the ground. But this is a low range unit right here, and this right now is detecting the background radiation.
Is it detecting radiation from your laboratory because you are here?
No,
that's good.
We're safe, but this is the normal background radiation. Here's some sources though, and you can see with it right here that it's picking up more off of the sources.
Is that like a little sniffer thing right there?
This is actually a Geiger counter. This is a Geiger-Müller tube inside of that probe right there, which is the same as what you would have in the handheld unit.
So why does somebody need that one over the other one?
What we tell people is if you can only afford 1 meter first, always have it be a high range meter, because this will warn you of the dangerous levels of radiation that you need to leave immediately for or take shelter. This unit here would be for lower levels, for decontamination, checking food or water. It's good to have, but if you can only own one instrument, you always want it to be a high range instrument first, because that's going to tell you about the immediately life-threatening higher levels of radiation. This low-level meter would saturate out at a level way below anything that would be life-threatening.
So if you're bugging out and you're carrying 1 meter because you want to check food for radiation like in the movies, you want this one here?
That's correct. But you have to have a high-range meter first, because this one's not going to tell you if you just walked into an area that's going to be life-threatening in 30 minutes.
Okay.
The Nuke Alert is specifically a high-range meter also. On the back of it, the chart, which is a little bit difficult to see there, but there's a bigger picture of the chart on the back. And at the low level, when it first starts chirping, at the first chirping level, you could actually stay there over 40 days. And then, and then every level up is a doubling of the radiation and a cutting in half of the safe time, until at the 10 chirp level you would have less than 2 hours to leave before you would start having radiation sickness, where you'd be throwing up and everybody would start getting incapacitated. So this device here will tell you when it's time to skedaddle, or if you've walked into a bad area. And because it's on your keychain, it's on 24 hours a day. And if your keys are normally with you.
And you know what? I have one of these, and it's amazing how many of my customers who buy bunkers have one already when we meet. It's like we have the same keychain. That's funny.
The battery, we guarantee it for at least 10 years.
Really?
And we have a lot of people out there that they're still running after 14 years.
No kidding. And these things here, you gave me one of these one time, and I put on my passport. What does that thing do right there?
This is a rad triage card. And this center bar here will change color to match one of these colors up here as it absorbs radiation. It's a dosimeter. So if you heard something on the radio or something went boom upwind of you and you pulled this out of your wallet, if it's not changing color, if it's not darkening up, if your Nuke Alert's not going off, then whatever's going on is not affecting you where you are right then. These products are important because the panic will be far more widespread than the actual fallout. The fallout is going to go downwind, it's going to be a thin pizza slice, but everybody all the way around it's going to be panicking if they don't have some way to go ahead and determine what's going on where they are right there.
So people are going to want to know what these things cost. So what does this cost? This
under $25.
$20. And these over here?
You're looking at $160. However, if you buy 2 or more at the same time, $145 each.
Okay. And then these here,
these meters run from you're looking from $250 to $400.
Okay. Now which one's the Geiger counter?
This is the Geiger counter, the one with the removable probe, and it also comes with the headphones.
Oh, really?
So this is what you see in the movies.
Oh, okay. And then what's this one here? What's the difference?
And this is the high range meter again. And we explain.
And when you say high range, that means it will detect radiation from further distances.
Well, this is going to detect low-level radiation,
like in your food.
In your food, like a radium watch that your grandfather has, your smoke detector at the house. Some of the old Coleman mantle lanterns they're made out of thorium.
They admit?
The older ones do.
Wow.
They're made out of thorium. So this would detect on that. Fiesta cookware. The orange-colored cookware, this will detect. these are levels of radiation that are not immediately life-threatening.
And what's the one that has the long cord? This one here.
This one does. The bottom is detachable, and what you're able to do. And
so this is
we did this in one of your bunkers.
Yeah, this is the one that I have in my bunker, and then it has a cord that goes to the outside, and we can read the meter. We can read the level of radiation outside.
Yeah.
Because it has 20 foot of cord to it. So this is the cord.
The actual detecting chamber, the ionization chamber, is right here.
Yeah.
This 25-foot cord will hook from here to here, so this can be 25 feet away outside, and then from inside you can see what's going on out there. So
every bunker has to have one of those inside it.
It'd be smart if you want to know when it's time to come out.
Okay.
The government may not know. They may be late in telling you. They may be inaccurate. The wind may change. You really don't know what's going on unless you can check what's going on right where you're standing. Yeah. And that's what these instruments do.
How much in price?
$290,
okay.
And it's going to be recently calibrated and certified.
So guys, if you got a bunker, you got to have that one, because I have that one myself. But as you can tell, I come to Shane Connor here at KR for You. As you can tell, he is the expert on radiation, and I'm not. I may make the bunkers, but he's the man that knows all the devices.
Let me share one more thing with you before we go out to the lab.
Okay.
At ki4u.com,
yeah.
When you go there, front and center on that first web page when you get there, is going to be this article, The Good News About Nuclear Destruction.
I've seen that before.
Okay. It's a 4-page article, and you're going to be pleasantly surprised to discover that surviving a nuclear disaster is much easier than you ever imagined. In fact, 90% of the casualties are 100% avoidable when the affected populations know what to do and not do. And this document lays it all out for you. 90% of the expected and projected casualties are 100% avoidable if the affected populations knew what to do and not do beforehand. And that's the challenge, knowing what to do and not do, and also making some modest preparations.
Wow.
So
that's great news. And
yeah.
See, I've always known that Hollywood and reality is two different things.
Yeah, and I'll give you I'll give you a simple example of what we're talking about. When you go read that document online, this one's not updated, but the one online is. The foreword there is by the last surviving, closest to ground zero Hiroshima survivor. Okay, he's become a friend of mine. He lives in Salt Lake City now. He was the closest person to ground zero that's still alive today. He was 800 meters away from ground zero, okay, in his mother's womb. Anyways, this Hiroshima survivor, closest to ground zero survivor, he endorses exactly what we're talking about in this document, where we give examples. For instance, after Hiroshima, one of the survivors went to Nagasaki and told the police chief there that if you see any bright flash, tell your people not to run outside to see what it is, but to rather to duck and cover. When the Nagasaki bomb went off 2 days after Hiroshima, there were no Nagasaki policemen casualties with the initial blast because they knew to duck and cover. Now, what's going to happen to our kids at school, everybody at work, everybody at home, if there's a bright flash on the other side of town, without this training, everybody's going to impulsively rush to the nearest window to see what it is. And they're all going to get there just in time for the delayed blast wave to shred them with a tornado strength blast through the windows. That's what I'm talking about. 90% of the casualties are 100% avoidable. Now, one other point. Anybody that's at ground zero, unfortunately, we can't do anything for them. They're gone. But the point to understand is that if the population is equally distributed, and we're talking a military-sized nuke on the order of 500 kiloton, there are 15 times more people outside of that area of total destruction that was unsurvivable that are going to have to deal with the blast and the fallout later. If they know to duck and cover and they know to shelter for at least 48 hours, that's the 90% we're talking about that could survive that won't without that information. Read the Good News article. It's got it all in there for you.
All right, so we're in his warehouse, and how many of these did you get from the government?
What we did was 8 months prior to 9/11. We went ahead and cleaned out the Federal Depot in Fort Worth, Texas of 416 pallet loads of all of these survey meters that were headed to a landfill.
Wow.
And we brought them down here, and we were able to go ahead and hire personnel that had worked for the state and for FEMA calibrating all of these meters for them to go ahead and do the work for us. I can't have you go inside, but standing right here, you can take a look inside. These are Department of Army, Office of Civil Defense cesium calibrators. They each weigh about 1,100 pounds with depleted uranium and steel. And they each have a source inside of them that generates in excess of 700 Roentgens per hour. So we're able to calibrate these meters to mid-scale, which is the FEMA requirement, which we adhere to. The small unit over here is for calibrating the Geiger counter instrument that I showed you earlier.
Amazing.
And these are for the big ones. So all the states.
And what are those machines? They're radiation proof, or they put out radiation, or what do they do?
There's a cesium source inside the unit, and when the door is closed and the unit is inside,
yeah,
the radiation is going through the side of the unit into the meter. We know exactly how much radiation it is, so all we have to do is calibrate the unit to read correctly the known radiation source. And the cesium sources in here, all the states had 1, 2, or 3 of these units in their state, and there was a state FEMA partnership to go ahead and calibrate the meters they had in the state. These meters used to be stored in every county in every state across the country. And the Clinton administration defunded the program. They pulled them all back out. But half a dozen states, they kept theirs. They continue to use them because they have trans-state transportation of nuclear materials and stuff. And they have the trained people, and they keep their units calibrated so that they can go ahead and deal with an emergency.
Are you seeing a demand in the a rise in the demand for these radiation detectors and Geiger counters?
It's all of these products. Nobody wants to think about nuclear disaster until the news forces them to.
Yeah.
So we were going gangbusters up until Trump started talking peace with the North Koreans.
yeah, that put a damper on the bunker business too. But it's gonna pick back up because North Korea is not going to abide by any rules.
Yeah,
They're just
it'll be
his ass now.
No, you're absolutely correct. So that's been our business. This is our 20th year, and we've been here for 9/11 and Fukushima. And everything in between, and
so
we're ready for when it happens. But unfortunately, we're sold out. Typically, we're sold out in 48 hours.
Wow.
I mean, and the government on 2 occasions has bought us out with a phone call.
Really?
So they bought us out of all of our potassium iodide, 300,000 doses, after 9/11, and we also do MREs, but only by the pallet load. We do drop shipping. And we had FEMA went ahead. At the time we had 13 truckloads down here, and we supplied more than half of all the MREs for Katrina, and most of those went to Mississippi.
Wow, this is amazing.
Well,
this is very cool, Shane. I'm sure people are going to love watching this on YouTube. I bet you guys never knew exactly what went on behind the scenes, but he just pulled one of those. Now that was a Geiger counter or a radiation detector?
This is a survey meter. This is a high range unit, and he was exposing it to radiation in the neighborhood of 250 Roentgens. Now 250 Roentgens, if you were outside and it was 250 Roentgens around you, that would be a lethal dose in about 2 hours and 20 minutes.
What, would it kill you?
Yes.
Now you just drop dead?
No. You're going to be about 2 weeks wishing you were dead.
Oh, because you're going to get cancer.
Well, it's going to be like getting cancer treatments without any of the narcotics. No, you'd be walking dead. You know, you'd lose all your intestines, your lining. You'd lose it, your bone marrow. You'd be open to all kinds of infections.
So they really would be zombies and Walking Dead, huh?
Well, you are. You're 2 weeks incapacitated, and if the dosage is high enough, you'll be convulsing and in a coma. So it's not it's not pleasant. But again, if your meter's reading 250, and you get out of there, you heat it, and you get these someplace where it reads less, you're going to avoid accumulating that complete dose. So it's all about dose and time. You could have a very high dose area that could be lethal in an hour or two, but if you don't tarry in that area, if you don't hang around there, if you know to move through it quickly, the dose would actually be very small, because when we talk about 250 Roentgens, it's 250 Roentgens per hour. You'd have to stay there for an hour to get a dose of 250 Roentgens. Fatal is about 600.
So what's the advice to people? Get the hell out of the area.
No, absolutely. And the thing is, you'd see the meter going up as you were approaching it. So, I mean, it's telling you we don't need to go there. You're also going to know if you're in a bunker, in 48 hours, it ought to be down to just a fraction of what it was initially. But it's only with a meter that you have that assurance that when you step outside, it's gone.
Well, this is amazing, guys. So, like I said, it was fun. I was driving through Gonzales, Texas, and I got a chance to visit Shane Connor, and he is the formidable expert in the U.S. on radiation detectors. And if you guys want to know more about him and to purchase his products, as I do, go to KI4U and ki4u.com, and he's the guy that sells all these devices, and he's been doing it for how many years?
This is our 20th year.
Thanks a lot. We enjoyed coming here.
Thank you, Ron. Appreciate it.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed that stop. Again, that was Shane Connor at KI4U in Gonzales, Texas. He lives about 2 hours from my house in Texas. The guy's smart. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I tell you what, I've got some great videos coming up. But you know the conclusion, and it's surprising to most people, but basically what he's saying is you just need 48 hours of protection, and it will protect you from that radiation because it burns out so fast. And I always knew that, but sometimes it's good to listen to an expert that does it for a living. So the good news about nuclear war is it's very survivable, and it's not as horrible as Hollywood makes it out to be. This is why survivors at Hiroshima and Nagasaki were at ground zero, yet they lived till today. Okay, so the point is, if you have some shelter and you have protection from that radiation, you have about 100% chance to survive, and according to him. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, like, subscribe, share my video if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one.